Mexi.
Happy PLN Day, one and all. Once again, another distressing month in the mainstream news cycle, but you know that workers everywhere have been pushing their struggles forward, and today we celebrate their wins and highlight their tenacity. Solidarity always, my friends. Please keep the good fight going. At the end of last month, one full of land-back wins that we reported on in our last episode, the Nez Perce tribe celebrated reclaiming part of their territory after nearly 150 years of illegal forced removal. In direct violation of the 1855 Treaty of Walla Walla, in 1877 the United States Army forcefully evicted the Nez Perce from their 7.5 million acre homeland to a 750,000 acre reservation in Idaho. Despite this, the tribe has worked to keep a connection to the ancestral land they were driven from. In December of 2020, they purchased a 148-acre property known as the Place of Boulders, but could not perform a formal blessing ceremony until now due to this horrid pandemic. Last month, 150 tribe members blessed the area and celebrated their return. Vice Chairman Shannon Wheeler said, "We would hope that our ancestors would feel the tears of joy, and that their tears will turn to joy because they see our people coming back to the land that we belong to." I've said this before, but the fact that Indigenous peoples should ever need to buy back their own land from the colonizers, especially land under treaty, is an absolute travesty. Land back now. The Stoney Nakoda Nation are celebrating the renaming of a mountain in the Rockies, officially renamed Anukataipa, or Bald Eagle Peak, replacing a century-old colonial, racist, and misogynist name. "Today we will certainly honor our women," said Chief Aaron Young of the Chiniki First Nation during the celebration. "It is on behalf of them that I stand here today with our council and elders to give thanks to our Creator for guiding us in the naming of Bald Eagle Peak, Anukataipa. A racist and sexist term has finally been cast aside. The Stoney people are grateful." And if you're a fan of PLN, you'll know we love to hate Canada's racist AF monster of a first Prime Minister, John A. Macdonald, key architect in Canada's residential school system, in clearing the plains by intentionally starving and murdering Indigenous people, among many other egregious atrocities. Statues of him are falling all across Canada, and this month activists in Hamilton tore that sucker down. It's been amazing to witness the shift in consciousness in my lifetime around the illegitimacy of Canada's leaders and the country itself. Hopefully this consciousness raising is a step forward towards a fully decolonized future. Months ago, we reported on the precedent-setting union drive at an Amazon warehouse in Bessemer, Alabama. Amazon acted illegally and spearheaded a violent union-busting campaign, forcing employees to attend lecture after lecture filled with mistruths and lies, where workers had to listen to the company demand they oppose the union. They hired union busters to walk the floors and poll workers on their intentions. They also used their influence to disrupt the postal service and even allegedly traffic lights nearby to minimize the number of cars that would stop and receive pro-union information. These tactics seemingly prevailed as the vote did not pass, but this month we have a very welcomed update. The hearing officer concerning the Bessemer Amazon union effort is recommending that the failed elections results be thrown out, citing violations of labor laws by Amazon, and is recommending a second election. Union organizers are now awaiting a final decision from the regional director, and if they agree, organizers in Bessemer will have a second shot, which could have ground-shifting implications for Amazon workers across the country. Great news, and we'll be anxiously following how this story develops. And the momentum is spreading, with Amazon workers in New York forming an independent union this month. On August 11th, the Amazon Labor Union held its first press conference to announce its campaign to form an independent, worker-led organization that will fight for better working conditions, higher wages, and job security for all Amazon workers. The campaign began at Staten Island and has spread to surrounding facilities, spearheaded by former Amazon worker Chris Smalls, who had been fired for organizing a walkout on March 30th, 2020, in protest of unsafe working conditions. Having already signed up over 1,000 workers to the organization, the ALU is on track to file for recognition with the National Labor Relations Board. As you can imagine, the organizing efforts have been met with fierce backlash from the bosses. A leaked memo from Amazon's executives revealed the company's attempt to launch a racist smear job against Smalls and illegally interfered with worker organizing at the Staten Island warehouse. The company even hired operatives from the Burke Group, who call themselves human resource specialists, to walk through Amazon workplaces and spread doubt among the workers. Despite these efforts, the ALU has earned the trust of hundreds of workers, and that trust continues to grow every day. After filing for their election vote to become an established union, they will take their fight directly to Bezos himself. Workers at the Paroc company in Semezno, Poland, who are part of the Labor Confederation at Semezno, went on strike this month, stopping production entirely. Paroc Polska is a producer of stone wool insulation and is part of US-based Owens Corning. After less than a week, they won better pay, internship allowances, and contracts for indefinite period employment. This victory is being hailed as a milestone in the Polish working class's recent history. The Semezno Labor Confederation posted on Facebook, "We negotiated for 15 hours today. We conducted the interviews for a total of 1 year. On the way, there were negotiations, mediation, 2 referendums, a warning strike, and a general strike. The latter has just ended because we have achieved all of our goals. What the crew showed was the power of unity and the power of consistency. We have it." Activists in St. James Parish, Louisiana are celebrating a win this month as their tireless activism against a massive petrochemical plant run by Formosa Plastics has stalled the project once again. The Formosa Plastics plant has been on hold since the fall of last year. Local activists led by Sharon Levine, who founded the group Rise St. James to fight the plant, had brought a lawsuit against Formosa, which resulted in the Army Corps suspending their permit. Now, in response to local organizing, the Army Corps of Engineers has announced that Formosa Plastics must complete a rigorous environmental impact statement if it is to obtain a key permit. The EIS could take years to complete, and its requirement is considered a major win for activists fighting to protect their community. "I had to touch myself to see if I'm real," said Levine, who was awarded the Goldman Environmental Prize for her activism. "Nobody took it upon themselves to speak for St. James Parish until we started working to stop Formosa Plastics," she said. "Now the world is watching this important victory for environmental justice." Late last month, the South African Reserve Bank approved an application for a cooperative financial institution called the People's Stokvel Financial Cooperative, a Black-owned cooperative bank. The viewer who sent in this story aptly noted that in a country where financial institutions, corporations, land, and ultimately the entire economy is in the hands of the white minority, it is significant that this cooperative is collectively Black-owned. The institution is hoping to receive enough membership to create a mutual bank, where each depositor has ownership of the bank, is entitled to dividends, and is able to vote in annual general meetings. Incredible. Here's to wresting power from the financiers and giving it back to the people. In Berlin, delivery riders for Gorillas, which is a COVID-born supermarket business that delivers groceries at cost, plus only a $2 delivery fee, have organized remarkably well and have been holding wildcat strikes across the city, often organized in less than 10 minutes. Gorillas made German startup history by reaching $1 billion in 9 months, but workers have been faring terribly, being injured on the job in frequent accidents, missing wages, experiencing sexual harassment, and being suddenly terminated. They formed the Gorillas Workers Collective and have been waging an impressive battle against the employer, inspiring workers in London and Amsterdam to do the same. One worker said, "The company's motto is to deliver the orders in 10 minutes, and as we see from our strikes, we are literally organizing in less than 10 minutes. Another said, "When there's a critical mass of workers that are organized, then nothing can be done against it. Solidarity with all of the workers putting pressure on Gorillas." In Portland, a work stoppage at a Nabisco production facility has spread to a distribution hub in Aurora, Colorado, and to another production facility in Richmond, Virginia. Hundreds of workers who make and distribute Oreo cookies and Ritz crackers are now striking, facing off with Nabisco's parent company, Mondelez. Gains that workers had won are now being threatened by the new parent company after it acquired Nabisco in 2012. Mondelez wants to end the premium pay system that guarantees time-and-a-half pay for working more than 8 hours a day, time-and-a-half pay on Saturdays, and double time for Sundays. The proposal would encourage imposing longer shifts on workers because they would be cheaper for the company, even though the schedule can already be a grind. Mike Burlingham, who works at the Portland site, said, "My longest stretch without a single day off was 5 weeks, and it's worse for other people. Their whole thing is to remove paying out premiums." Needless to say, the workers aren't having it. In addition to keeping the gains they have won over the years of struggle, the workers' union wants the company to guarantee that production remains in the US. Keith Bragg, president of BCTGM Local 358 in Richmond, said he has no idea how long the strike might last, but we're in it for the long haul. Late last month, 500 Alabama coal miners, along with hundreds of other union members and supporters, marched on Wall Street, taking the streets in front of BlackRock investment firm, the biggest shareholder in the miners' employer, Warrior Met Coal. The miners have maintained a picket line 24 hours per day, 7 days per week since April 1st, fighting for better working conditions, pay, and benefits. Members of United Mine Workers Locals 2245, 2368, and 2397 say the big hedge funds that provide financial backing to Warrior Met are blocking progress towards a fair contract. The miners were welcomed with solidarity from many other union leaders and workers, with many coming in from all across the U.S., from South Dakota, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia, as well as the New York metro area. A solidarity rally was also held in Brookwood, Alabama shortly after. Cooper Caraway, president of the South Dakota Federation of Labor, emphasized, "I'll tell you this, young workers, South Dakotans, Californians, workers all over the world are going to stand with you and support you, and there's nothing BlackRock or any other rich asshole can do about it." Stuart Applebaum, president of the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, shouted from the stage, "From Alabama to New York, from retail workers to miners, this is everybody's fight. Amazing to see such a tenacious show of solidarity. When we unite our struggles, we are powerful beyond belief." The regime change goons who were trying to blow up the situation in Cuba have been left empty-handed, and instead Cuba has seen tremendous support and solidarity from various other states. The Bolivian government confirmed the shipment of 2.5 tons of syringes, 16.5 tons of food, and 1 ton of medical and biosecurity material. From the plurinational state of Bolivia, we raise our voices of dignity, sovereignty, resistance, and solidarity with the Cuban Revolution, said President Luis Arce. He added, "Solidarity is not giving our leftovers, but sharing the little we have." Mexico sent 2 Navy ships loaded with more food, medicines, syringes, oxygen tanks, masks, and 100,000 barrels of diesel, destined to supply energy to the island's hospitals. Russia sent wheat, 1 million disposable face masks, meat, refined sunflower oil, and other food items. The diaspora has also mobilized, with Cubans in Japan collecting medical supplies for Cuban families. The Cuban embassy there received 60 isolation gowns, 1,000 surgical masks, and 120 face masks. And in the US, solidarity activists mobilized the funds to buy 6 million syringes. Within Cuba, people have also come together, with social networks, youth, student, and union movements mobilizing resources, and local companies making cars, bikes, and motorcycles available to transport and pick up the products. You won't hear much about this in the mainstream media though, especially coming out of the US, the only country along with Israel to insist on maintaining the inhumane blockade when the rest of the world consistently votes against it. But that's because they just really care about humanitarianism, am I right? Alejandra Garcia, a journalist in Havana, writes, "Before these demonstrations of love and solidarity, silence prevails from the promoters of the SOS Cuba campaign, which circulated in the networks days before the riot seeking a social uprising in Cuba. They expected bombs to hit the island instead of food and medicines. They expected hatred among Cubans would grow. Instead, they were left empty-handed." In Bloomington, Indiana, a brewery has made some big changes that should set a precedent for the restaurant and bar industry. They've implemented a no-tipping policy and listed the reasons for doing so on the front page of their menu, including pushing back against tipping's classist, racist, and sexist history. Prior to the no-tipping mandate, there was an enormous tipping disparity depending on the server's age, gender, and race, where young, white, millennial women made about 25% more than middle-aged black women. Bar owner Curtis Cummings said tipping says everything about the person providing the tip and nothing about the employee or their service. In Indiana, the minimum wage for tipped workers is only $2.13 an hour, meaning that facing discrimination with respect to tips can seriously impact a worker's overall pay. Since the no-tipping policy has been implemented, workers start at $15 per hour and quickly rise after 90 days to an average of $18 per hour. They also don't have to work weekends to get the most cash from tipping customers. Server and bartender Carrie Burnett said, "I have 2 kids and a family, so being able to do stuff on Friday and Saturday nights and not have to always block off that time for my work days has been super helpful." What's more, since workers are no longer at the mercy of customers' discretion, servers don't have to tolerate customer harassment to earn a tip. Cummings said that 70% of the sexual harassment claims that are brought every year are from the restaurant industry. Staff are now empowered to stand up for themselves and tell customers what they're doing is not okay, and they don't have to worry about their pay being affected. The future is one without the need for tipping. Very happy to see establishments like this leading the way. On July 31st, the Communist Party of Kenya held its first ever Women's League convention, in spite of state repression of their party. The revolutionary cadre discussed many issues of importance to Kenya's working class women, including working conditions and patriarchal oppression. They condemned bourgeois feminism and maintained that capitalism will never deliver full liberation for women. The keynote speaker, Comrade Seifu Sani, condemned the bourgeois women of Kenya who collaborate with the neoliberal regime to throw working women under the bus. Comrade Sani said, "We have to understand that as revolutionaries, we must always struggle for the liberation of our society from the exploitation and oppression of women by men. This must start from our own homes and our relationships with our mothers, our sisters, our girlfriends, our wives, and our daughters. We must struggle to liberate ourselves from abusing, using, and exploiting women. We must struggle to cure the disease of male chauvinism within ourselves that we have inherited." Veterans and activists of the prisoners' rights movement marched to the west gate of San Quentin Prison in California this month to commemorate Black August and the spirit of George Jackson. 50 years ago, Black Panther Party Field Marshal George Jackson was assassinated by San Quentin guards, which led to the historic Attica Rebellion in New York State. Organizing and actions by Black and Indigenous people imprisoned in San Quentin have been integral to the prisoners' rights movement. In a move meant to cause a chilling effect, the California Department of Corrections Police kidnapped one of the rally's key organizers, Minister King X, off the streets of Oakland. He was given a bogus charge, which was happily dropped 2 days before the event, which went ahead with speeches, music, spoken word, poetry, and phone calls from prisoners inside, yelling "Free them all." Mr. Fab, a Bay Area artist and musician, ended his talk with a call to free the elders and all political prisoners. Free Mumia, free Sundiata, free Malutu, free all of the political prisoners who have been locked down for what they stand for. Let our voices ring loud, let our voices be heard in the shadows where they have been ignored. A few months ago, we reported that Chileans voted overwhelmingly for independents and leftists to draft the country's new constitution, rewriting the constitution drafted during the 1973 to 1990 dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet that is unsurprisingly believed to favor corporate interests over the rights of ordinary citizens. The vote to pick 155 citizens to rewrite the Constitution was born from powerful uprisings that erupted in October 2019 over rampant inequality and corruption. The Constitutional Assembly is now underway in Chile, dominated by candidates that represent territorial movements for things like access to water, clean energy, ancestral rights, feminist gains, etc. Assembly members include current President Elisa Loncon and Machi Francisca Linconao, who is a Mapuche leader who spent 10 months as a political prisoner for protecting her ancestral territory until beginning a hunger strike that set her free. Both women were pivotal in the 2019 protests. There are also teachers, car mechanics, scientists, a chess player, and Giovanna Grandon, who drives a school bus and is known as Aunt Pikachu because she went dressed as Pikachu to a lot of protests in 2019 and 2020, and even got beaten up by the cops in costume. Different communities are taking public audiences, many of which are self-organized in areas generally ignored by the political establishment. Some of the more radical ideas being proposed for the new constitution include changes to private land and water rights, as well as to labor rights that directly threaten Chile's oligarchy. Extinction Rebellion activists have ramped up protest actions in Norway, enacting a 10-day protest against Norway's oil industry, which is the largest in Western Europe, pumping about 4 million barrels of oil equivalent per day. As part of the week of action, activists blocked access to an Equinor-run oil export facility on Norway's west coast, temporarily halting the loading of oil. They also blocked a major road in Oslo, and 17 campaigners occupied Norway's oil and energy ministry for more than 5 hours. The pressure has been ramping up ahead of an election on September 13th, where Norway's center-left opposition is expected to unseat the conservative-led coalition. Understanding what's ahead and the vested interest politicians and the corporate class have in maintaining capitalist growth at the expense of all of us and our planet, civil disobedience that disrupts extractive capital is a moral and political necessity. In Puerto Rico, activists have been protesting the construction of a swimming pool that would be part of the Sol y Playa beach resort, as the beach is home to an endangered species of sea turtles who use the sand as laying grounds for its eggs. As mass tourism is known to exacerbate not only environmental degradation, but land grabs and social inequality, 200 locals gathered around the concrete fence, singing and chanting, "The beach is for the people." The site violates the Federal Endangered Species Act, a law enforced to protect sea turtle habitats on that same beach. Activists destroyed a fence that bordered the swimming pool site, saying it was too close to the beach. Mariana Molinelli of the Citizens Victory Movement and a spokesperson for the protesters said there has been violence on the part of the state. The police have used excessive force. Indeed they did, while also heckling protesters and launching homophobic slurs at one couple. Activists are filing a complaint against the police officers who used excessive force, and their passion and persistence have paid off as developers decided to stop construction of the complex's swimming pool given the increase in protests and social media attention. It is unclear whether or when they might attempt to keep building, so demonstrations are ongoing, with many locals camping out on the beach, listening to music, and chanting in efforts to protect the turtles and their public land. Comrades, if you have good news from the current month, please send your stories to veganvanguardpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you to Javi for the positive news jams, thank you to Halcyon for the positive news background, and thank you to Tristan for editing this video. Thank you also to our wonderful patrons who keep the show going. If you would like to become a sustaining member, please go to patreon.com/positiveleftistnews, or you can give us a one-time tip or donation using PayPal. The link is in the description box below.
Yeah, come on, sometimes